All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're looking at a study strategy that is so out there, it might just change how you think about school forever. We're going to break down this wild idea that 80% of your textbook is basically trash, and then show you how to become a pro at finding the 20% that's pure gold. Whoa. Okay, so our source material does not mess around. This one sentence, this is the whole idea in a nutshell. And it's pretty brutal, right? The argument is that if you're trying to learn everything, you're not being a good student. You're just being inefficient. You're actually just wasting your time.
And this way of thinking leads directly to what our source calls the study trap. And if you've ever been a student, you know this feeling intimately. It's that crushing weight, that pressure to somehow know 100% of everything in the course.
Ugh, man, we have all been there. I mean, come on. You've got 5 different colored highlighters going. There's a mountain of flashcards on your desk. You're rereading chapters until the words just blur together. You put in all those hours. You try to absorb every last detail, and you still walk into the exam with that pit in your stomach, feeling like you're not ready. It's just a frustrating, exhausting cycle.
So is there a way out of this trap? Well, this is where the really radical solution comes in, and it's all based on the classic 80/20 rule. The strategy is called selective ignorance. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. Selective ignorance? Sounds like a fancy way to say be lazy, right? But hold on, that's not it at all. This isn't about not studying. It's about being incredibly smart about how you study. It's like being a surgeon, precisely finding the most critical information, and then, and this is the important part, ruthlessly ignoring everything else. Here's a way to picture it. All your course material, the textbook, the lectures, everything can be sorted into 2 big piles. You've got this massive 80% pile that we'll call the trash. Now, it might have some interesting stuff in it, like fun facts or minor details, but it's not going to be on the exam. Then you've got this other, much smaller pile, the 20%. That's the gold. That's the stuff that will make or break your grade. The whole game is to stop digging through the trash and go straight for the gold. So the big question is, obviously, how do you find that 20%? How can you possibly know what's gold and what's trash? Well, our source lays out a very specific technique for this. It's called the lecture scavenging method. It's a pretty straightforward 3-step process. First, you identify repetition. What does your teacher say over and over again? If they say it twice, make a note. If they say it 3 times, ding, ding, ding. That's pure gold. It's practically guaranteed to be on the test. Second, you note the emphasis. Where does the teacher spend the most time? If they spend an entire class on one concept and only 5 minutes on another, well, that's a huge clue about where you should focus. And finally, you reverse engineer the exam. You use all these clues to think like the person who's writing the test. Based on what they kept repeating and emphasizing, what questions would you ask? Now, to really pull this off, you need more than just a technique. You have to adopt a certain kind of mindset. And this is where things get a little intense. The source calls it the maniac's mindset, and it acts as the ultimate filter for your studying. This is all about being aggressive with your focus. The whole idea is to reframe how you think about studying. Instead of seeing yourself as thorough for learning every tiny detail, you see yourself as a maniac for wasting precious time and energy on things that just don't matter for the exam. It's a mental trick, really, to keep you on track. And this quote, this is the mantra. It's the one rule to rule them all. For the specific purpose of passing that test, any piece of information that won't be on it is useless. It just doesn't exist. It's a really powerful, simple filter. For every page you read, for every note you take, you just ask, is this testable? If the answer is no, then it doesn't exist. You move on. And that leaves us with one last big question to chew on. Is this whole strategy the real secret to academic success? A brilliant way to get top grades without the burnout? Or is it just a masterclass in how to pass tests, one that makes you miss out on the actual joy of learning something deeply? Is it about the grade or about the knowledge? I guess in the end, that's for you to decide.